For over 30 years, we've had the privilege to live and work in this great community. Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson, representing accident victims across Northwest Florida.
And now, from Pensacola, Florida, it's Within Reason with Bob Kerrigan and Bill Rankin.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Within Reason. We have a special program tonight. I will say Mr. Rankin is not with us. I have a lot of comments I'd like to make, but I've been told that I can't say anything until he is here and can respond. But I have assigned him some reading that I hope will broaden his perspective a little bit from what he has expressed on the program in the past, and hope that he will moderate some of his extreme views. He'll be here next week to respond to that accusation. But tonight, we have two interesting things. First, we have our mayor that we're going to talk with, Ashton Hayworth. And then in the second half of the program, I have an interview with a founder and the CEO of Integrity Florida, a very interesting organization. And we have recorded that interview earlier. That'll be in the second half of the program. But right now, I want to go to introduce our mayor of the city of Pensacola, Ashton Hayworth. We're glad to have you here.
Well, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
We want to hear all the good things about the city. I have some notes about some things that I want to talk to you about. But first, before we get started, last week at the Sanger Theater, we had, gosh, I don't know how many people there, lots of people at the theater for the unveiling of what?
It's an exciting time, unveiling the new brand identity for the city of Pensacola. And it's really about positioning Pensacola so we have a larger share of the future with a contemporary look and a feel that Pensacola can position itself. And that's just one part of it. We
saw, I guess, I would, was a couple hundred, Ashton?
Probably about 250, I would think, that were there.
Yeah, and so we saw the logo and we saw the new, what do you call it, model, identity thing? Or what is it?
It's a brand identity, new look and feel of the city of Pensacola that's contemporary, representing a forward-thinking community. And that's what we are in the city of Pensacola. You've had a lot of big dynamics change in Pensacola with obviously the referendum, the Maritime Park, the election of a new form of government. And really, we had 10 identities, Bob, that were across the city representing our city assets. And so we want to have one feel, one look, and one brand identity. And that's what I wanted to showcase to the citizens of Pensacola, that we really have a sense of place.
And you had a competitive process, did you not, to try to determine somebody that was qualified and competent to come up with this, and this outfit, what was it in Tallahassee?
Zimmerman Agency, and most definitely we had great agencies locally that bid on the project. They were ranked. Zimmerman came out on top, and I think they've delivered a really big start to what we're going to do in the city of Pensacola, because there's a lot more behind just a logo. There's a branding opportunity here and campaign, which, you know, in the city of Pensacola, we know in such a big time in the history of our country with the recession that we've got to position ourselves. We need to attract venture capitalists. We need to go after regional companies. We want a piece of that market, and what this is going to help us do is position Pensacola for the future so we can get that fair share.
You know, when you think about Pensacola, on one side is the Destin and Sandestin area, and the other side is Gulf Shores. They've done just terrifically. Here we are with a major international airport now that is 20 minutes or so from a barrier island with some of the most beautiful beaches in the world right here. And it is remarkable that Pensacola has not been stagnant, but just hasn't seized these opportunities in the past. And so it looks like it's wide open to get it now.
Well, I think if you look at history that we've had to deal with since, say, 2004, with the hurricanes that have come through here, and then the financial crisis and the meltdown in the world markets, I think collectively we're coming together as a community, which is terrific, and saying that we want a piece of that pie, and the community's focused, the business leaders are focused on getting a piece of that pie. and that's what we're doing.
Well, you've been traveling a lot, haven't you, lately?
I have been. I went to Spain on a delegation trip to our sister city, Wr072312. That took me about a week to learn how to pronounce correctly.
Well,
I'm not sure I'm quite there, but it was great because their delegation came to Pensacola and visited with us. General Bernardo de Galvez is from Wr072312. That was the governor of Louisiana. That really pushed the British east. You know, obviously from Louisiana to Mississippi to Alabama, all the way to Pensacola, where we had the Battle of Pensacola in 1781. It's Fort George, and there's a lot of history there with Spain. And so we went over there to meet with them.
And you had a local delegation?
I had a local delegation from Pensacola.
Good.
It was terrific. We had 24 people, I believe. And so it was, I think people really, really enjoyed it. I know the people from Spain enjoyed it. One really great thing that came out of it, there's a woman that heads up all the university systems in Spain. And what we would like to do is work with the University of West Florida and Pensacola State College. So have a young kid from Spain come over here, and we would have someone from the States in Pensacola go over to Spain, and we would have a local citizen sponsor, you know, them coming back and forth to maybe take some classes and really kind of build on the international relationships on the education side.
Well, I got diverted unintentionally from our initial discussion about the logo and the branding. I want to go back to that subject if I can for a minute, because we've gotten some branding slides, I think, from the presentation you made. So I'm going to ask our staff to put these on the screen, have you describe what they are. And we'll start with just the general idea that this branding business is designed to unify our message across all of the city agencies and city activities, right?
I think that's incredibly important. That's one thing I discussed with the agency is, you know, we've had 10 different logos and marketing for all the brands across the city of Pensacola. So one that I'm really excited about is Pensacola Energy, which was ESP. And Pensacola Energy is very unique in itself, and I think a lot of people know that out there, that we're the oldest municipal gas company in the state of Florida. We've been doing a lot of things with the gas company. We're building 3 natural gas stations right now. We have a natural gas vehicle that we're driving at the city to promote our gas company. And so it's an incredible big time with natural gas. So that in itself, obviously the international airport, the Port of Pensacola's got a new look. We're really focused on the port, bringing in clean industry in the oil and gas sector, which has been a big win, and obviously neighborhood services, which is incredibly important. Pensacola is unique that we have 92 parks, so that's a big value that our citizens look for. So it's a fresh look, it's a contemporary look, and it's forward thinking, and that's what we want to present.
What a wonderful thing to be able to tell people who are considering coming here that we have 92 parks. That's really unusual, isn't it, for a city this size?
I think Philly has 93. So I'm almost positive, we can check that, but it's close. I remember someone telling me that stat one time, and I was in shock. So we have so much value here. As you stated, we're part of the National Seashores. We can be on Pensacola Beach from downtown Pensacola in 12 minutes. Pensacola Bay, you can take a center console from the Maritime Park and be in the Gulf of Mexico in 10 minutes. You have the Naval Air Station, you have the National Flight Academy, you have the museum out there. We have all these amazing assets, and it's an incredible place to live, work, and play, and that's really what I'm focused on, is letting the markets know, not just around the United States or the state, but everywhere, that we're open for business.
Outstanding. All right, you've talked about traveling in Spain with the group from Pensacola, which you said was productive. The thought occurred to me that you may actually be able to engage in some distance learning education with Skype now and all of the devices that you can actually have classrooms. I know Florida State University is doing that with international studies with countries around the world dealing with human rights activities and things like human rights cases. But back to the travel, you left Spain, but then you went to the UK.
I did. Yeah. It's really exciting right now what's going on with Airbus and their big announcement in Mobile. So I had the unique opportunity to meet with Governor Scott and Enterprise Florida, Grace Swoop, who's a head of economic Enterprise Florida for our economic development for the state of Florida. And we had the opportunity to meet and spend a lot of time with Alan McWhorter, who's the chairman of Airbus. Because you're going to have those tier 1 suppliers that are looking for locations that are very close to where they're going to be building Airbus, which we're 45 minutes to the east of Mobile. So that opens up a huge opportunity. And I think, as we all know in business, when those big corporations start coming in, the other companies start coming in. And currently right now we're working on a really nice-sized project for the city of Pensacola. We've had meetings with this particular company in aerospace, not Airbus, that we feel very bullish on, and we're working with the state on that, and we're working with the local officials on that. So I think it's a great time to be in Pensacola, and the great thing about it is, you know, when we're so close to Mobile, Alabama, and other parts of the southeast, we're all in this region, and people love the fact about Florida. That's one big selling point Airbus said was we're right next to Florida, and you know that's a big selling point. And now we're not just a tourist state; we're open for business.
Governor Scott's been a big supporter, obviously, an advocate for economic development and bringing jobs to Florida. I know you have had many conversations with him. He's really been a big fan and supporter of our area, hasn't he?
He's been tremendous. I mean, every time that I have a question, you know, Governor Scott calls me back immediately. When we had the floods, it was Sunday night, you know, close to a month ago, a little over, he called me right away. Do you need anything? Is everything okay in Pensacola? Those are big things because in the past, Pensacola never had that attention in Northwest Florida, and obviously you'd have to go back to Governor Askew, but Governor Scott has been tremendous. Any little detail that I need attention, he's right there and has returned my calls and is on it the next day.
Did you find that the meetings that you had in the UK with the other aerospace people was productive in terms of meeting movers and shakers in that field, which is so big?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in the city of Pensacola and in the region is we are focused, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, is rebranding the city, focused on economic development, and knowing that we need to compete if we're going to keep our young people here that are getting out of the University of West Florida, getting out of Pensacola State College. We need to be a business-friendly environment. Government doesn't create jobs, but we create the environment where businesses want to come and do business here. So to answer your question, most definitely. I mean, when you're with the chairman of Airbus for 45 minutes and talking about his experiences when he was in flight school here, that's a big deal. And, you know, we need to have more business people on a next trip like that saying, hey, we're together. Alabama had a lot of people, and obviously Airbus is building over there. But at the same time, we're so close. I'd like to see in the future, you know, more united front where we can all travel together, because it does make a difference, because it lets the business people know that the business community in your town means business too, and you want them there. So there's some good takeaways.
Who do we compete with? What are the cities our size, maybe somewhat larger, whatever I think your phone's going off. The mayor gets plenty of calls. Anyway, so who do we compete with in terms of bringing these great new businesses to possibly to our community?
Well, I think probably our number one competitor when you talk about bricks and mortar businesses has been Mobile, Alabama. And, you know, I think in the last decade, I think when I moved back from New York, you know, Pensacola was really kind of neck and neck when we were running parallel. And I believe the state of Alabama really got behind Mobile, and that's been a challenge for our state. But I think we're all on the same page now. So I would say our number one competitor is Mobile. And obviously, when you look at from a real estate standpoint, a tourist standpoint, you have Gulf Shores, you have Orange Beach, and just to the east of us, of course, we had Destin, always kind of stealing the thunder and saying, you know, the red snapper right out in front of Destin. Well, really, it's right out in front of Pensacola, you know, and you can look at all those details. And we have, you know, just the same. The beaches are exactly similar, but they kind of promoted themselves more. And then, of course, you get down to Bay County and Walton County, and they've tried to attract a certain, you know, demographic. And so we've allowed this to happen. And I think that's why you're seeing the excitement in the community where people say, hey, listen, we got an incredible place to live. We have university here. We've got the opera, the ballet, the symphony.
So it's remarkable, isn't it?
It's truly amazing. I mean, when you bring people that have never stepped foot in Pensacola, they're able to step into a world-class airport. They say, wow. And that's the first perception they see about Pensacola. And it's we have an incredible city here, and you can get places. We have an incredible downtown. We have a walkable downtown. We're the first settlement in America. All these assets that we have, this is what we need to be promoting.
Well, not to just dish on our neighbors, but I can't imagine the desirability of walking in downtown Mobile compared to Pensacola. I mean, you can't say anything. You're a politician, but downtown Pensacola is fabulous compared really to any of these other cities. I mean, you know, in Destin, there's no, you know, you got one street, you know, of some shops and things in Destin, but we just have this very charming kind of downtown community, and it really hasn't been promoted a lot from that perspective, and it is one of the best parts of the city.
I think it's you know, it's kind of like the diamond in the rough. Pensacola is a gem, and it's ready to take off. And one thing that I think is exciting is that the community is truly behind the city. And there's always going to be challenges and things that we need to do better on. But the great thing about it is you have an historic city in the state of Florida with no state income taxes, incredible beaches, incredible waterways, friendly people, terrific food.
Great hospitals.
Great hospitals. Yeah. I mean, our health care is amazing here. That we grab a lot of that traffic coming from other states that touch Florida, come into our hospitals, a heck of a children's hospital. So we're truly blessed, and we just need to talk about it more. And I think that, you know, you have the community leaders, you have the business leaders, and you have the politicians, the elected officials talking more about it, because it's truly about creating that right environment where people want to do business and live here.
Well, there's been a little tension as reflected by newspaper articles and comments, and I guess some people blogging, that with this new form of government, there is a little uncertainty. There seems to be a little uncertainty between your existing historic city council governance system. Now we have a strong mayor system. And so there's been a little conflict there, but I know you are working to resolve it. Do you see that coming to a good compromise and a good conclusion here pretty soon, so you can all be on the same page moving forward?
I think so. I think everyone's heart's in the right place where they want to move the city of Pensacola. You know, a few of them on council have children. They want to raise their kids here. They want to maybe have them the opportunity to stay in Pensacola. You know, and with the new form of government, I did my due diligence. I reached out to a lot of strong mayors around the country, and they said, you know, the first 2 years are going to be a challenge. It's a different form of government, but we have good people on the council, and I think they want the same thing. And, you know, we have differences of opinion, but I believe that we will move our city forward and that we will be successful, and we will compete with the rest of the state and our neighbors to the east and west of us, and we'll get business and we'll get people moving here. And that's what we're elected to do, is to grow our city.
I think the Charter Commission, the more I read it and spent time trying to understand it, they just did a fabulous job coming up with it. That is a charter that really is masterfully drawn. Crystal Spencer and the whole team. I should mention all the names, but the people that worked on it and worked so hard for all the time that they did it, they really did a masterful job, and they've captured in it, I think, the perfect form of government for our city. It's obvious that things are working now. And even though we had very effective people in different positions, have different mayors in the past, they didn't have the power to really get things done. It was a very inefficient kind of government. And so there probably is some reluctance, I think, to just immediately assume that the city council has an entirely different role. But in fact, they do now, don't they?
And most definitely. I mean, we have the executive and the legislative branch, and you know, they are different roles, and that's what the public wanted. And I think, you know, one of the biggest challenges it was from the private sector is turning things around at the city and getting people answers in a quicker fashion. And that's what we're trying to do, and being very much customer oriented and being, you know, business friendly. And those are the things that we're focused on growing the city. And of course, there's challenges in government. We're there to produce good services, and we do that in the city of Pensacola. We've got good employees, but the great thing about it is our employees now are a part of it, and they're seeing the results. And I think we're all on the same page to continue those results, and the council is as well. As I stated, you know, we have differences, but I think we're all focused on making our city the best place to live, work, and play.
I had a personal experience calling 311, and there was a big container of some kind out on the street where we live, and it had been there for 2 days, and somebody was doing some renovation or something, but it was unmarked, and it was dangerous in the street. And I called 311 and reported it, and then I called back the next day, and they said, we contacted the owner, it'll be taken care of, and I think that afternoon it was moved. And I think that's what people want from the city. I mean, somebody would have to have been killed before anybody would do anything years ago, because you just couldn't get anything accomplished. You just couldn't get things done quickly. I was very impressed with that whole operation, and they don't ask your name, they don't ask why you're calling, they don't ask if, you know, who you're trying to convince, or there's no political part. They just take the information and they respond to it. It was pretty effective.
Well, I think that's one of the ways that we can measure things, Bob, and that's one thing that I wanted to do immediately. I'd seen it in other cities, and it's incredibly important. I got an email Sunday night from a woman that said, you know, there was a tree issue. She called 311. The guys came out there, and that she called, but we sent somebody out there and just turned it around. It's results driven, and we can measure that. And that's the great thing, is how can we become better offering the services to the taxpayers?
When we come back, we're going to take a short break. I want to ask you about rights of way. It's kind of a personal problem, that a personal view that I have, that we have some problems with the right-of-ways, but I'll be interested in your view about it. We are talking today with our Mayor, Ashton Hayworth. We'll be back here after this short break with the next segment. Stay tuned.
For over 30 years, we've had the privilege to live and work in this great community. Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson, representing accident victims across Northwest Florida.
Okay, we're back with the mayor, and this is Bob Kerrigan, Within Reason. Mr. Rankin has been told to read up and to be a little bit more informed, and hopefully to modify some of his views. He'll be back here next week to respond to that. All right, we're going to go back to this interview with our mayor, which leads me to this question. As I drive around the city in the areas that I drive, or walk, which I walk a lot in the city, I notice that at a lot of intersections, people have planted shrubs, some cases in our neighborhood, a brick wall that really is out in the right-of-way right next to the street and totally obstructs the view when you come to these intersections. Is this a bigger problem in the city? Is it just isolated, or have you thought about it?
No, this is an issue. I mean, a lot of the folks that work at the city have always, you know, these are the questions that have come up years before the new form of government. And what we're doing now is we're doing driving the city right now to see and taking an inventory of the right-of-way issues that we have right now. And it's dangerous, and there's a liability issue, because you come to a stop sign or a yield sign and there's plantings right there on the corner. And of course, everyone, the nice thing about it is from a positive standpoint, is our citizens take care of their right-of-way, the city's right-of-way, and they want it to look attractive. But we just got to look at those blind spots, because it is an issue right now. We've had a lot of calls about it.
You've got a big staff, say big, you have a number of people down there working for you, not that big, I guess. But let's just go through some of these folks that are there, so when people call and they talk to somebody, they'll know who these people are. And let's start with Bill Reynolds, because I know you're so pleased to get him with his wonderful background. What's his official position?
Bill's our city administrator. He manages the day-to-day operations of the city. Terrific gentleman. We were fortunate to get him. Wonderful wife, Kathy. She's in the reserves, the Marine Reserve. She's an attorney. Bill's background, the chief of staff for our inspector, also an attorney. They love Pensacola, which was very important, because I think in today, especially when you have kids, you're looking for that the right place to raise those kids at a certain time, but wants to give back to the community. And Bill is all about government, and that's a good thing about having effective government. And that was one of the big deciding factors in hiring him, was his efficiencies in running government. I
know I've talked to him on several occasions, and his view is that government can work. It can work efficiently. It can be consolidated. It can be, as I said, efficient, not excessive. And I mean, he has a very interesting view of government, but that it should work for the people.
Totally. I mean, you know, we're here to provide services. That's what the taxpayers do. And it's most important that we run the government effectively and efficiently. and Bill is doing a great job. And we have John Asmar, he's my chief of staff. John's done a terrific job on strategy, on projects that I needed with the city. We have Jim Messer as our city attorney. Jim obviously represents the council and represents me. He's doing a terrific job. We have Helen Gibson, who's the chief of neighborhoods, and Helen has done a wonderful job. She's from New York originally, and her job is to really coordinate our neighborhoods in the city of Pensacola, because if you look at government and the things that are most important to our citizens, and last year I did close to 9 town hall meetings, and number one thing is public safety or neighborhoods, vice versa, that I get the feedback from the citizens. And so we just had our neighborhood conference last week, which was a big success. Everyone from the state of Florida came to Pensacola, was at Sanders Beach. So it was a really big win for the city of Pensacola to showcase our city. And Helen's done a terrific job with that.
Erica Burnett, what does she do?
She's our clerk, and Erica does a terrific job. And then you have, of course, Dick Barker, who has a lot of institutional knowledge as a financial officer at the city. And obviously Dick's been at the city a good amount of time, but he's been a huge value for me since I've been in office for a little over 18 months now.
Now, your personal staff, your secretary and support people, who are they?
You got Rita Lee, who does it. She's my executive assistant that meets with a lot of people that I can't meet with. You have Elizabeth Buswell, who's my direct report that obviously is taking care of my calendar every day. So if you call my office, your first person you're going to talk to is Elizabeth Buswell. She's a 25 young lady getting her degree out here at UWF, taking classes, and so I'm hearing all sort of good things about college again.
Good. Well, in a future program, we'll talk about the different enterprises of the city and different departments in the city and the people that are heading up those departments. I just wanted to get kind of an overview of where we are. The big, what is it, the elephant in the room or whatever no one wants to talk about, the unfunded liabilities for the pension. We talked about it on this program. You had the great pension committee that you put together that did such a terrific job in analyzing this problem. I think it's now pretty well known, certainly by the business community, if not the general populace, that we have a very serious pension problem. How do you see us coming out of it?
Well, I think you touched on something that's key, is the general populace all around the country, and especially in the city of Pensacola, they understand the issues. I mean, they see it on the nightly news, national news, local news. You know, we funded the pension $3 million in 2003. We're going to fund it $13.7 million this year in 2012. You're talking big numbers, and you have an unfunded liability of $116 million plus. These are challenges that a lot of municipalities are facing, but we right here in Pensacola are facing a big challenge, and we need to do something about it. It's not sustainable. We're not going to continue to be able to afford it, and you know, the last thing you want to do is interrupt the quality of service that we give our taxpayers right now.
Well, there's a level of tension now with the unions, right, because they have a right to negotiate and are an integral part of the system, that they are the collective bargaining system. Where are you in the various collective bargaining? You have a number of unions, right? In fact, there's 3 in the city police department alone, isn't there?
There is.
So how are you coming on that, or can you say now?
Well, we're still in negotiation with the police. We have tentative agreements right now with ASME and the fire department, but we're in negotiations right now with the police department. So,
well, you know, we've talked about the general contribution by each one of these groups, the police and firemen, and the general city employees, but as it stands now, all new city employees go into the state retirement system.
Correct. They go into the Florida retirement system, which is very solvent, and that's what we're trying to do with all the employees, is get them into the FRS and get out of the DB business. I mean, we just can't sustain it any longer.
DB meaning defined benefits that you're responsible for paying.
Correct. We want to get out of the pension business. And you know, they need to get into the FRS system so we can retain the level of service that our taxpayers are accustomed to.
There's a lot of activity downtown. Recently, we had a meeting at the City Hall, I think while you were in England, as a matter of fact, and your staff put the meeting on. You hired somebody or assigned somebody to analyze the downtown walking issue and opening the grid. What group did you hire?
Northwest Florida Regional Planning, and they do a terrific job. I understand the meeting went well. I've had positive feedback, and really it's obviously to address traffic flows and to open up our streets, because we are so fortunate in Pensacola to have an amazing grid system where people can walk, they can ride their bike, and it's incredibly important to open up government streets so we can have some of the traffic that cuts through Aragon Court right now, and just get it off there. I don't believe the traffic's going to be near as heavy as some people believe it is, but it's going to open up a new environment for those people to walk Government Street, to walk east and west, and to let people know where our historic district is well, because that's incredibly important.
I walk a lot in the city, as you know, because I'll send you notes when I find sidewalk problems from time to time. But if you were just visiting the city of Pensacola and you're walking up 12th Avenue, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's a very quaint, it's great all the way up from Cervantes. You walk up 12th Avenue, and then you see this magnificent canopy of trees. Okay, then the sidewalk stops.
Right.
And so you're looking around, and you got to walk through somebody's yard, and I think the reason is it was going to be more complicated because there were trees they didn't want to cut. Thank goodness they didn't cut the trees. It's not fair to have a simplistic solution to a complicated problem, and I'm not saying it that way, but I know on 9th Avenue, in the most dangerous part of 9th Avenue, where you have a really steep hill there by Church's Chicken, that sidewalk just stops. And so if you are out for a stroll and you're not familiar with the city, you can end up being in an area where there's some danger because of the sidewalk. So I guess as a preliminary to the question, is there a sidewalk plan to try to complete the sidewalks in the city to truly make it a sidewalk-friendly, walkable city?
I think that's the biggest goal, that we would all like to achieve, and it gets back to even the new branding, Bob, is consistency and continuity. That's what we want to showcase in the city of Pensacola. And obviously, with funds that are available, we've got money set aside for this 2013 budget to spend a lot of money on sidewalks, because people want a walkable city. They want to feel safe, and they want to enjoy the experience. And truly opening up government is about the experience of Pensacola. If you have people that are staying here or living out on the beach or visiting our town in their own Bayfront Parkway, maybe they got from the hotel that they're going to go out to the museum, and we want them to visit our Naval Museum because it's stellar. However, they might say, oh, wow, what's that? And that's a historic district right into Government Street. So, consistency and continuity, that's what we want to achieve in Pensacola, and be forward-thinking in a historic city with a modern touch. And we can achieve that. And people have an experience walking from where you live all the way to downtown and feeling safe. Sidewalks are incredibly, incredibly important, and we're going to do our best to do a better job.
Well, I love the new park with the wide sidewalks for people with disabilities and wheelchairs. It was a wonderful architectural change. Brian Spencer, and you had other people I know.
Yeah, Brian Spencer, Steve Dana, and the ADA requirements were incredibly important to me. I've seen it in other cities on the really unique things that they're doing to grow the city in a better light, and that's what we're trying to achieve in Pensacola. And Adel Mason, we did that. Obviously, right there on Main Street right now, in front of the Maritime Park, in front of City Hall, is we want everyone to have that experience of their city, because truly, it's the citizen city. They pay the taxes. We want it to be a first-class city, and that's what they deserve.
Let's go to the logo. Ask our staff to put up the upside of Florida, which is it? Would you say it's our motto? Is our branding? What would you call the upside of Florida?
It's a tagline. And there's obviously going to be a campaign behind that, but we are the upside of Florida. I think plenty of us have traveled all different places and said, where's Pensacola? Is that next to Miami? And I'm like, no, we're Northwest Florida. So I like it. It's catchy, it's smart, and we are the upside of Florida. And everything better, good about Florida is better in Pensacola.
When they say back to the grid system, that you're going to open up the grid system, what does that actually mean? By the way, I thought that what was your expert? Well, they brought in an expert that talked about other cities. Was very, very informative. I thought he did a terrific job, and why you need to open up the city, and he called it opening up the grid. How do you see that is an important part of what we're doing?
Well, you look at your grid system, streets that are running east and west and north and south, and you want people to be able to have traffic flow, and there needs to be a consistent flow of traffic, whether it's foot traffic, whether it's in your vehicle. It needs to be a good flow, and it's incredibly important for the success of a city. And having Government Street shut down with bollards up there, it really doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know there's some challenges right now, and people are concerned, and they should be, and they have every right to voice their opinion. But I think we should go through the process and listen. You have an incredible park across the street on 9th Avenue right there. It will be safe, and it will help traffic flow, which is incredibly important for a city, whether it's in your vehicle or whether it's on foot.
Well, one of the comments that came from one of the spectators or participants in the audience was, if you're going to open up Government Street, you need to have sidewalks connecting you up on 9th. I thought it was an excellent suggestion.
It's a fantastic suggestion. Imagine heading south on 9th Avenue, and then you take the sidewalk right up onto Government Street. What an amazing experience walking down Government Street looking west into the historic district. I mean, when you think about that, that's a great experience. Just like your experience on 12th Avenue with our beautiful oaks, we need to create those experiences. And we're fortunate to have an historic city, the first settlement in America. Let's leverage that and talk about it.
If people have ideas, people in Pensacola, and I'll watch the letters to the editors, and I thought Carlton Proctor's op-ed piece this week about 10 suggestions for Pensacola was so good. If they have an idea that they think would really make the city great, how do they communicate with you? How can they contact you?
Well, it's interesting, there's one realtor developer in town, a young guy, chose to live in Pensacola, and we talk about it because the market is very soft, as we know, in the economy. But he sends me emails all the time, offering suggestions, and a lot of people do, really. They email me directly. They call the office.
What is the email?
It's ahayward@thecityofpensacola.com, okay. And my office is 435-1626. So listen, we love suggestions. We want to know what you want and what you value, what you think can be better for the community.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. We'll have you on again to talk about the different enterprises of the city, our gas company and our port and the airport and all of the good things that are happening in the city of Pensacola. We'll have to have you back for that. But I appreciate you coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about our great city.
Our Mayor, Ashton Hayworth, and we will be back to cover an interview that we had with Integrity Florida after this short break.
For over 30 years, we've had the privilege to live and work in this great community. Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson, representing accident victims across Northwest Florida.
We have talked from time to time on the program, really most of the program. We have disagreements about the political views here. But one thing we have shared is our common concern, if not frustration, with the corruption in public government, the lack of transparency, the lack of requests for proposals, the inside deals, just all of the integrity issues. And it's, as Bill, as you and I have said on the air many times, upon that subject we agree. So I am really pleased that we have a special guest that we're going to interview now to discuss issues of integrity. Really a fascinating person and a fascinating development in Florida. So I welcome Dan Krasner from Integrity Florida.
Thank you, Bob. Great to be with you.
Nice to have you. What is Integrity Florida?
Integrity Florida is a government watchdog group made in Florida to tackle the issue of ethics reform. We need to accomplish ethics reform at all levels of government here in Florida.
We've had past efforts. I'm going to ask you about who we are as we go on with this, but just the first thing that comes to mind is I know we've had some really good efforts in the past, and in fairness to Governor Bush that I have criticized upon occasion, many occasions, he was instrumental in forming an evaluation type group. Tell us a little bit about that group, and then what came out of that. And then finally, who are we, the we forming Integrity Florida?
Sure. Well, Florida has had a lot of studies, a lot of good reports about the need for ethics reform. Governor Bush put together a commission. They put out findings that are still valid and important to look at today for policymakers. Governor Christ did something similar. But it's been nearly 45 years since the days of Governor Ruben Askew in Florida that there's been a serious discussion by our Florida legislature about ethics reform. Now's the time we need in the 2013 legislative session to pass comprehensive ethics reform to restore trust, because Floridians are starting to lose faith at alarming rates in their government officials. But ethics reform and more open government would restore trust.
You know, we've talked about it before, and people say, well, we need this, we need transparency, we really need to be more open, and the same sleazy stuff goes on over and over and over again. So who is we? Who is we that formed Integrity Florida?
And I'll tell you the who. Our belief is that corruption does not like sunlight, and disclosure is the key to accountability.
Great.
And in full disclosure, I'll tell you my background. I worked in Tallahassee in senior management roles with the Florida Chamber of Commerce and Florida Tax Watch. I've also spent time working for various PR firms. My wife, Nicole, came up with the name Integrity Florida. She's been a partner with me since the start of this effort.
Oh, wonderful.
We have our first child is going to be due October 29th of this year, a little baby girl, so we're very excited. And that's our inspiration, to align our personal and professional missions, to get up every day and work for the good of Florida. As native Floridians, we love this state, but we're concerned about Florida leading the country in corruption.
How in the world did you put together or get people that shared this common belief and then, more importantly, agree to fund it? Because you got to have funding to do these sorts of things, and it doesn't have a high level of pizzazz. You know, you're revealing or coming up with proposals for transparency and that sort of thing. Well, people say, well, that's nice and whatever, but it's hard for people to reach into their pocketbook to try to support that. So who are these folks that agreed to do it?
Well, we can't afford not to pass ethics reform. We as Floridians are all paying a corruption tax. It's impacting our pocketbooks. When you have the politically connected companies getting the vendor contracts at all levels of government, that's increasing our cost. We have $50 billion a year in vendor contracts from state government alone, and the politically connected companies are getting those, and we're all paying more because of that.
They're not bid? These are not openly bid?
Some are bid, some aren't. We've been working with CFO Jeff Atwater on a new website called Transparency Florida. The goal is to put every vendor contract online, every penny of government spending at all levels online. I'd ask all viewers to, this election season, get every single candidate at all levels of office on record, because we're the boss, and say that your job description is to put every penny of our money online, tell us how you're spending our money, put your emails and your documents online so we can see what you're doing. We've got to remember, this is government of, for, and by the people. We're the boss. We're going through a hiring process this campaign cycle, but we need to change the job description and hold these folks accountable.
All right, let's back up a couple of steps and tell me how you got people to support this idea. You got a board, apparently. You raised some money, and as I said earlier, it's pretty noble to think people are reaching into their pockets, or businesses are, to say we want an integrity aspect of government, or integrity discussion about government. So I really would like to know, who are these folks that have helped do this?
So Integrity Florida has an 8-member board of directors. Our model is based on a successful model of ethics reform in Palm Beach County that was a coalition that passed 3 local ethics reform measures in 2010, headed by a gentleman named Marty Rogel. Marty's on our board of directors. We also have another Marty, Martin Dykman, former associate editor of the St. Petersburg Times, on our board.
Know him well.
Rosemary Gaudreau, former editor of editorials of the Tampa Tribune. From Northwest Florida, we have Mike Hill, who's the president of the Northwest Florida Tea Party.
We all know him, too?
Definitely.
Sure.
Along with Marilyn Wills from Tallahassee, immediate past president of the League of Women Voters.
Excellent.
So we have a balance of all parties, independents, Republicans, Democrats. We have a former mayor of Gainesville, Pegeen Henrahan. But that's important. You know, corruption does not wear a party label. To tackle the issue of ethics reform, you have to get the partisanship out of the room. We have about 20 donors so far. individuals that are backing this effort. We're applying for grants. We're partnering with Barbara Peterson at the First Amendment Foundation on open government initiatives.
Know her well, too. Great people to be aligned with, and they all have a common goal,
Absolutely.
Which is this disclosure. I think the point that you made about disclosure as the key to this is really so important. And I'm not that enamored, to be honest, about this with the idea that Mr. Atwater is going to list things on his site, because really what we need to talk about, I would think, more is how do these vendors fairly compete for the state's business? And just to post that they've gotten the business, it's help. I mean, it's a help, no question about it. But how do you respond to that in terms of the fairness of competing for government business, which seems to me to be at the core of this?
Fairness is at the core of all these issues. I mean, we should have competitive bidding for every contract. I mean, any business in Florida that has the products or services that government needs should have a chance to compete for that business. That's not the case at all levels of government. There's still too much no-bid contracting going on.
Why is there so much? I could see maybe for some kinds of personal service, some highly specialized or esoteric area, you might be able to make an argument for it. But how do they end up getting all of these contracts out on a no-bid format? How do they pull that off, if you will?
Well, because it's been done in secret. You know, government information should be public information. But in this day and age, if it's not online, it doesn't exist. Governor Askew said you have to give the citizens the tools to hold their government accountable. Now the tools have changed. Now we have Facebook and Twitter and websites and various social media. It's time that our government, as the default, puts everything online. So mobile app developers can put information on our cell phones. Or we're trying to do that. We're trying to create Follow the Money Florida apps.
Good. That's great.
One thing I also like to mention, honored to be joined by Ben Wilcox, who came on board as our research director. Ben has been a champion for good government reform in Tallahassee, former head of Common Cause. When Ben was at Common Cause and I was at the Florida Chamber of Commerce, we didn't always work on the same side of issues. But that's what's great about working on ethics reform.
Well, you've seen it. I like it because you've seen it from the business side. You're balanced about this. I think sometimes we see sort of the parading do-gooders that have no understanding of the dynamics of business, the difficulties that small businesses are experiencing. And so coming from the chamber side, I think you have an appreciation for it, but you're not overcome by it or overwhelmed by it to the point that you buy whatever business says they need at the time.
Right. Well, I'm inspired by the fact that we in Florida, with 19 million residents, have an opportunity to have 19 million watchdogs. This is the Sunshine State. If we demand that our government does all business in the sunshine, whether it's their email or the spending or the contracts, and we as citizens do our part as watchdogs and take a look at it, and if we see wrongdoing or corruption, go to integrityflorida.org and let us know about it so we can put it in our research reports and expose the corruption.
One of the problems we've experienced locally is that in order to be an informed consumer, sufficient to question the conduct of government officials or contracting, whatever, takes a tremendous amount of time. And there is a concerted effort to hide the ball and to keep you from finding out what's going on. I know years ago, the League of Women Voters would send representatives to every single committee meeting and subcommittee meeting and everything where all the dirty stuff gets done because nobody shows up at 10 o'clock in the morning. People are working, they're at school, teachers are teaching, you know, life goes on. But the workers, to try to get the government deals, are there at 10 o'clock. So the League used to show up and they'd make notes and they'd file reports. But that was all on a volunteer basis. How do we as citizens, how can we become involved to make a difference when there is this organized effort to keep the citizens from finding out? I'm not saying just with the contractors. I'm saying people on the inside, too. They don't want a big light shining on all of government from the inside. How do you accomplish that as a private person?
We as a private group, I mean, as an independent watchdog group, we're providing more citizen tools to get the information to you in an easier format. For example, if you want to know the net worth of your legislator or the governor or the cabinet or their assets and liabilities, we've gathered all those financial disclosure forms so you can know where their conflicts might be, and we've put them online for the first time at integrityflorida.org. hasn't been done before for the public to fully access the information to see if your lawmaker might have a voting conflict. Because right now they can vote even with conflicts. They can work for a lobbying firm.
Amazing, amazing. You can start with this as a suggestion. My experience with these financial disclosure forms is they're written not to disclose.
Right.
And it's almost accidental if you actually glean any meaningful information from it, and that these things are done with shell corporations, LLCs. They work through their wives and their brother-in-laws and their sisters. I'm not saying you can find out everything, but I think you could put together a committee of CPAs to say, draft us a good conflict of interest disclosure form, financial and otherwise, because we don't. My experience looking at these forms through the years has been, you get some information, you don't get it all, and it's really designed for the loophole by the people who designed it in the first place to allow a way out.
A basic improvement would be any financial transaction over $1,000 within a year should be disclosed, because there's insider trading going on. Our elected officials know where the roads are going to be built, so they buy up the land.
It happened here. It's happened here pervasively through the years. Inside tracks with congressmen in the past, interstate exits, the same thing you're talking about. I guess it happens all over the state, probably, right?
Here's what your viewers could do as a start. Go to integrityflorida.org. Go to our website and look at the financial disclosure forms. We have a way you can comment on those. So if you know that one of your elected officials has a piece of property they didn't disclose, type out the address and let us put a spotlight on it. You can do so anonymously if you want. Send us a tip. We have to be involved. Folks, around the community, we need 19 million watchdogs with our residents in Florida to help us in every city and every county know what's going on, know about deals. Send us emails and post those comments so we can gather the research and put those research reports out statewide.
Well, that's wonderful. What a great idea to allow citizen input. But I'll warn you about something, okay? If it gets good, you're going to get infiltrated by the people who do not want it to be good. I hate to be too cynical about this, but when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, and for example, we know contracts in Tallahassee where the people show up at the pay window to get their cash every year and have the power over legislators, representatives, and state senators, they're not going to give up easily. So I just caution you, be careful on who you let in the club. So if you have a problem with this organization, it will be a terrible disappointment to the people of Florida. And now it looks like a great hope for the people of Florida.
Definitely. And we want to, we're getting so many calls and emails from all around the state, from every city and county about corruption. Ideally, we'd like to see Attorney General Pam Bondi have a report corruption hotline. That way we can refer those calls there. We refer a number of calls to the FBI report corruption hotline. We refer calls to the First Amendment Foundation to help folks with public records requests. And all those numbers are on our website, integrityflorida.org. Representative Gates here in the area is interested in trying to get a report corruption hotline passed, along with some other ethics reform bills.
Good. Well, Don's president of the Senate this year, so that'll be really important. It's great that you've got him on board with this plan.
And Senator Gates has indicated support for ethics reform as well. The stars are aligned. Governor Scott ran on ethics reform, ran as an outsider to clean up Tallahassee.
And I think he's doing a great job in that respect, because he's come through with it. And I understand, and we'll get to this now, that there is a legislative package that you're putting together that you hope that the governor will support and in some form and incur the support of the legislative leadership.
Exactly. There is a ground-up, grassroots movement building around Florida for ethics reform. We've had successful movements and passage of local ethics reform measures in Palm Beach County, and Broward County, and Jacksonville. We're meeting with groups passing local ethics reform in Port St. Lucie, in Lake County, in the Panhandle, in Okaloosa County. All these groups are going to come together by the legislative session and force the issue, demand ethics reform. And Governor Scott has indicated support. Senator Gates has indicated support. Representative Gates support. Representative McBurney out of Jacksonville. They're lining up to file the bills. We're going to have a session where we can finally get ethics reform done. If your viewers make it a priority, tell these candidates you want to see ethics reform. Get them on record now. Get them on your iPhone. Get them on your mobile device on camera. Get them on record.
I had a recent experience with the Florida Ethics Commission. anecdotal, but it's pretty typical of my experience with them through the years. There was a controversy, a major controversy. So I assembled all of the newspaper articles that I could find on the controversy so that they would be adequately prepared to address this ethics controversy. And I sent them off. Then I got this rather abrupt, almost insulting letter back saying, we didn't ask for this. We don't want it. We can't tell you we're going to ever use it. Keep this for whatever you want to use it for. It's like, wait, you're the Ethics Commission. You're not concerned about ethics? Oh, well, you have to formally make the complaint. So I got the complaints out, the forms out. And I read on the form, you have to swear under oath, subject to the penalty of perjury, that you have personal knowledge. The whole thing's been designed to keep people from reporting serious ethical violations. In my view, the whole Ethics Commission has to be restructured or something. I kind of put you under the bus, I guess, on that comment, and I don't want to cause controversy for you, but just my own experience with the Ethics Commission has not been good.
Well, nationally, Florida just received an F grade, a failing grade for ethics enforcement at the state level.
I did not know that.
This was by State Integrity Investigation, a collaboration between the Center for Public Integrity, Global Integrity, and Public Radio International. This is a separate group than Integrity Florida, but we're partnering with them, and we put their report card on our website, integrityflorida.org. It's important for us to know that Florida is not looked at as a place where state-level ethics law enforcement is happening at any meaningful level. And that's problematic. Florida leads the country in corruption. We're number one. That's not good.
No, it's not. I did not know that.
Florida had more federal public corruption convictions between the year 2000 and 2010 than any other state in the country. That's according to the U.S. Department of Justice.
That's not a wonderful quality for a state to encourage businesses to come here, economic development, encourage our tourists to visit here. It's very sad. I did not know that.
And speaking of business, Forbes magazine labeled 3 Florida cities, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, as part of their top 10 list of America's most miserable cities, and they cited our corruption problem. So you combine the leading the country in corruption, federal corruption convictions, Forbes magazine talking about Florida's corruption problem, an F grade by State Integrity Investigation. We're clearly the number one state for corruption. We can't stand for that. Florida is number one for our sunshine, for our beaches. We love this state. We have a lot of things to be proud of, but we need to become the state that's number one for open government, ethical government, responsible government, and accountable government. That's what we're focused on.
That's terrific, Dan. For those people who have just joined us, I'm talking to Dan Krasner from Florida, Integrity Florida. So we need to tell our viewers now as we wrap this up, how do they find out more about Integrity Florida? And I'll just say overtly, how can they help contribute? Because you have to have funding to keep going and to keep doing it, which I just think the whole thing is quite admirable, actually, and delighted that you could be with us today. So tell us again, how can people contact you and have input into Integrity Florida?
Well, thank you again for having me, Bob. I've enjoyed the time with you today.
Good.
At integrityflorida.org, you can sign up for our mailing list if you'd like to make a contribution to help us with our gas money back to Tallahassee and around the state so we can spread the good word about ethics reform and build this statewide movement. We'd be honored to have the support of your viewers.
Well, thank you so much. Dan Krasner with Integrity Florida, our guest Bill Rankin, back to you. And I know we agree, I would say 100% with what we've just heard in this interview. So we're back to Within Reason.
For over 30 years, we've had the privilege to live and work in this great community. Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson, representing accident victims across Northwest Florida.